Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. This is my second speech in front of this group. This is one of my favorite stories for the Let's Get Personal of storytelling. It's about me when I was 16 years old. And when I was 16 years old, my dad was an engineer for the Forest Service, and he would pretty much leave at 5 o'clock in the morning and wouldn't get home in the evening until 7 or 8 o'clock, because he would have to travel out up into the hills, well up above Placerville into locations, and he would literally sit there with a pad and pencil and design bridges or roadways or whatever the Forest Service needed to get their task accomplished. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Did anybody ever watch that TV show, the 70s series? Red Foreman was my mom. There was an episode of that television show where Red and Kitty went to a family vacation, and while gone, Eric and his friends decided to take the Vista Cruiser out for a drive. And Ed put a little hair across the ignition system to see if Eric drove the car. That was my mom. That's how meticulously my mom was. If I were to throw a party in that house, my mom would know because there was a little tiny crumb on the side. So one day, a 16-year-old boy in the middle of summer vacation who has nothing to do except for his little job at McDonald's. His mom is away in Oregon taking care of her relatives, decides to throw a party. So Buddy, of my best friend Sean, and I meticulously plan out a party. We purposely wanted it small. And it was a perfect time because it was summer, and we could easily have the party out at the pool. And that way the house would be left alone, and Mom would never be anything more to the wiser. So before Mom leaves, we ask Mom for a couple of lists of items. Mom's baked cookies was one of them. Several supplies, chips, salsa. Hint, hint, red flag, warning. Well, Mom did buy the chips and the salsa, but the fresh homemade cookies were not there. She did buy some soda, so that was typically stocked in our refrigerator anyway. And so we, as the high school boys, start to go out and do the rest of our planning for our party, which included some beer, of course, but a 16-year-old kid is not going to have beer at his party. And then we go about planning who we're going to invite. And of course, as a 16-year-old boy, we key in on the girls. And we go out, and for a long period of time, we discuss and negotiate who we think we should invite, and just everything that a 16-year-old somebody would do. And we come up with our list and our invites, and there were certain people we excluded because we figured they would bring their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whoever. And we go out. And then the day of the party, we start putting everything out. And that is when we discovered we did not have Mom's chocolate chip cookies. And so what party is a 16-year-old kid without a chocolate chip cookies? Well, lucky for me, I figured, doggone it, I can take apart a whole entire engine block, rebuild it all the way up, get the car running. I can certainly bake a batch of chocolate chip cookies. So I open up my mom's recipe book and find a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. Obviously, the ingredients like butter, flour, salt, sugar, eggs, and chocolate chips is pretty self-explanatory. And we go to the store and pick those up. The problem becomes with items like root beer extract, baking soda, and vanilla extract. What the heck are those items? So we start looking through the refrigerator at home, and we come up with a couple of ideas. We have root beer soda. Baking soda, well, maybe we can substitute club soda. Vanilla extract. We go to the store and we buy vanilla pudding.
Oh, man.
And so we mix our ingredients. And it's a little watery. Well, maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. So the party's supposed to start at 11 a.m. And we start baking our cookies at 9 a.m. And we baked our cookies for 2 hours. In a you can tell I'm not a chef.
Mold?
No,
Cookie sheet? Cookie sheet?
no, not a cookie sheet because cookie sheet's flat. Pyrex dish. Thank you so much. The glass ones. And we bake our cookies for 2 hours.
Oh.
And they are still runny after we get out. But they're starting to harden up a little bit.
Oh.
So we decided to taste them. And the tasting of them goes very, very interesting. Because they are running, but they are somewhat halfway decent. So we go with it. Surprisingly, they taste decent. Maybe it was the vanilla pudding, I don't know. But so our guests arrive, we have the chips, we have the salsa, and then we bring out the cookies. And we delectably decide to serve people the cookies. And they're a little different. And it's a little interesting watching people eat these watery cookies, which we happen to find a bunch of sort of a half-empty container of See's candy with a little papery, waxy, and we served our cookies in those. And unlucky for us that day, we forgot to turn off the oven. And as a last-minute idea to hide some items, we threw some things into the oven, including some glass dishes, which happened to break and bust in the oven. And the only reason we knew this is because we were out by the pool all swimming and enjoying ourselves, and we happened to notice a little smoke coming from the house. Luckily for us, in our neighborhood, we happened to have 2 sheriff's officers and a volunteer fireman who worked in that area. So for us, volunteer fireman came to the day and saved the day. But unfortunately, he had to rip out the oven. So at the end of the day, just remember, as a 16-year-old kid, we tried to make chocolate chip cookies. And all I wanted to do was just have a party.